Morning and talk.
Order of the Lowell City Council regular meeting for Tuesday, January 17th, 2023 at 7:04. Roll call, please.
Mayor Bennett.
Here.
Councilor Harris.
Here.
Councilor Stratus.
Present.
Councilor Weathers. Here. Councilor Murray. Here.
All present. Stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Okay, we have any changes to the agenda?
Yes, Mayor, two changes. The first is I would like to request that Public Works Director report go first after the consent agenda and public comments.
Okay,
And the second is that there was an advertisement that the city published regarding a first reading for ordinances related to the development code. That will not be held tonight. The reason is the planning commission is holding the hearing open. They will continue holding work sessions throughout this month, and they will have a vote on a recommendation to city council in February. Once they vote on that recommendation, we will publish an updated notice to the public on when to expect a first and second reading before city council. So again, the first and second reading for ordinances related to the development code will not be held tonight.
so that wasn't on our agenda anyway, right?
That wasn't on the agenda,
But
but
it's on the website.
it is on the website.
Okay. Do that. Okay, first up is the consent agenda. We have minutes from October 18th, 2022, November 1st, 2022, November 15th, 2022, November 21st, 2022, December 6th, 2022, January 3rd, 2023, check register for 2022, and November financial report 2022. Is there anything anybody'd like to take out to discuss? Okay. We have a motion to accept.
I'll make a motion to accept the consent agenda as.
Okay. Gail moved and Jimmy seconded. I'll read it again. For the minutes of October 18th, 2022, November 1st, 2022, November 15th, 2022, November 21st, 2022, December 6th, 2022, January 3rd, 2023, check register for 2022, and November 22 financial report. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. Catching up on our figure. Okay, next up is public comments. Anybody want to speak? Not seeing anything. Council comments. Okay. Next up, you say Max would like to speak.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, Max, if you'd like to go ahead, please.
Okay, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, let me turn up the TV volume.
Okay.
There you go.
Try it now, Max.
Okay, how's that? Is that better?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Public Works report. Just a nice short brief one here, but give you guys a little bit of an update what's going on. Streets and parks, the annual mileage report has been submitted to the state. It's just an annual report we do with the total mileage of all the roads in the town. Staff is currently working with Civil West to develop a construction plan set for the street repairs on East First Street. That was caused by the water leak back in November. I've had a lot of people asking about this. This is a project that most likely we will not be able to do until, depending on weather, late spring early summer. We need special conditions for that, especially with it being on a slope. Water treatment plant. Staff is working on annual water reports and the consumer confidence report, just waiting for a couple more lab results for that. I'm just going to get that out to the citizens, get it posted online and get submitted to the state. We still are working on the meter change out. We've slowed down a little bit, not only with holidays and other things going on, but with the weather. It's kind of a situation, you know, we need not perfect ideal situation, but it makes it a lot easier and a lot smoother to with more fair weather. So wastewater treatment plant, DEQ approved the City of Lowell's Willamette Mercury TMDL implementation plan. Senate passed a bill and we had to do some updates to the Mercury side of our TMDL plan. I will be doing a presentation to council in April to update everybody and show our progress on the 5-year matrix that we submitted back in, I think, 2019. Staff is also working on airports for the wastewater treatment plant. Just a couple of them to list: the biosolids, I&I, and then the 5-year TMDL report. And we also are continuing to work with Civil West on the wastewater master plan. We did gather a lot of data last year, and we've done a lot of the boots on the ground work. And so most of the work is more in the Civil West hands, a lot of the stuff that we don't do in-house that we hired them to do. So any questions?
I have a question to Max
Go ahead.
about First Street. Is there going to be any maintenance done on that area? Because there's a lot of potholes that are starting to form now. Did you hear that?
Yeah, I heard that. You want me to answer that, Jeremy? Or
Go ahead, Mr. Baker.
Okay. Yeah, so we have plans to regrade it again, probably once or twice more before we get the paving project because it's settled from the weather. So regrade it, street sweep it, and then do some additional pothole filling in just from, you know, the few spots that have settled and sunk down. So yeah, we have plans to do a couple more rows of maintenance on it before we actually pave it.
Thank you.
Anything else, council? Thank you, Max.
Thank you, guys. Have a good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Okay, next up, city administrator's report. That's on page 74.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, everybody. Some updates for the month of January. We have purchased new desks for the library workroom. We purchased new tables and chairs for the conference room. We purchased a variety of other small tables and furnishings for the library. We finished installing our library shelves. And our library director and volunteers are putting books on the shelves in preparation for opening day. We're targeting February for opening day. Once we get a date finalized, I'll put that out to everybody. We're going to have a big celebration.
Sir. Just to let everyone know that we were planning on moving the books at the library, old library to the new library. And we canceled that for tomorrow because it was supposed to be 99% chance of rain. And I believe it's going to be anybody that's helping with moving the books, it will be Thursday instead of tomorrow.
Okay, thank you for that. On the East Main Street property, we have completed a contaminated media management plan and a beneficial water survey, which we turned into the Department of Environmental Quality to satisfy their requirements for us to receive a no further action letter. I anticipate receiving that soon. We completed the paperwork to record a sewer easement on that property where the 2 manholes and the sewer line are located. The council approved the scope of work for that earlier this fall. Planning and development issues. The Planning Commission will be holding a work session tomorrow, as well as next Wednesday. Consider working on the development code updates. They're scheduled to vote on sending a recommendation to you and hold a final public hearing on February 15th. We have a first reading and a first public hearing before the council on those recommendations on March 7th, as well as a second reading and a final vote on March 21st. Other land use matters before the city council are going to be the land use application associated with the Dollar General project. That would require a public hearing, first reading, and second reading before the city council, and we'll publicize that once those dates are finalized. We've had a lot of other development activity. The school district submitted building plans for their high school and weight room expansion. We've received a box full of building permits from the Sunset Hills development with new. It is literally a box filled with building permit applications. And we held a pre-application meeting last week with a developer who's interested in multifamily development in the city. In other news, I've been negotiating with Sanapac on a franchise agreement. Our agreement with them lapsed in 2019. I believe we have a final draft ready, and they'll be coming to you in February to make a presentation. I've obtained quotes for the 70 North Pioneer Street parcel fencing to get the fence in order to prepare it for sale. They've installed some pins in there so that we can make sure the fence is accurate where we locate it. I'm going to hold off on putting that on the market until there's a decision on a final zoning designation for that, and that will be coming to you as part of the package of development code updates. I turned in the one pager to the League of Oregon Cities regarding the conversation that we had had in previous council meetings on the homelessness funding. On some other items, I have requested a deadline extension for our financial statement audit. The Oregon Audit Division approved that for January 31st. We're behind on completing the audit, and it might be until the end of February, so I anticipate asking for another extension on that. Lane County Risk Mapping, Assessment, and Planning has sent me information on updates to flood mapping. I looked at the link on that, and the updated flood map is the same as the current map. But if anybody is interested in seeing that information, contact me and I'll send it to you. I just wanted you to know what was going on. And lastly, we're going to talk later in this meeting about emergency management planning. There is a meeting scheduled with West Fur, Oak Ridge, and Lowell in February with Lane County Emergency Management. They're putting everybody in a group, and we'll be having that meeting, and there will be additional meetings with the public and with the council as this progresses to complete our emergency management plan. What questions do you have for me?
Very much anything on 78, please report. November and December both. Okay, the first item up, JD is the old business, second reading of the approval of ordinance 307 for Lowell Public Library.
Thank you, Mayor. Before I give a second reading of this, I'll add that during the past two council meetings, we've had some conversations about strengthening some of the language in here regarding expectations for staffing, and that is reflected in section 3 in the ordinance, which I took from the policy that we adopted. And I will go ahead, since there was a change, with a full reading of this ordinance. Share the screen so those online can see. Stop the share and see if that fixes it. Nope. Likes the program and restart it.
City of Lowell, Oregon. Ordinance 307. An ordinance to amend sections 2.505, 2.506, 2.507, and 2.634 of the Lowell Revised Code relating to the Lowell Public Library concept of operations and power and duties of the Library Committee. The City of Lowell ordains as follows. Section 1. That Sector 2.505A of the Lowell Revised Code is amended to read as follows. A library director will staff the library with the assistance of volunteers. Section 2. That Sector 2.505C, seconds. 2.505E, and Sector 2.507 of the Lowell Revised Code are amended to replace the phrase volunteer librarian with the phrase library director. Section 3. That Sector 2.505D of the Lowell Revised Code is amended to read as follows. D. The library will normally operate the same hours as City Hall. Extended hours for evenings and weekends will only be authorized if library volunteers are available and after coordination with and approval by the city administrator. For safety and security purposes, a minimum of 2 staff persons, either employees or volunteers, are required to be on the premises from library opening until closing. During regular City Hall operating hours, it is sufficient if one of the 2 staff on the premises is an employee working in the City Hall section of the building to assist in case of emergencies only. The library will not open to the public if these minimum staffing requirements are not met. Section 4. That Sector 2.506 of the Lowell Revised Code is amended to read as follows. The Library Committee may recommend to the City Council rules, regulations, and procedures required of patrons for use of the library. Said rules, regulations, and procedures require approval by the City Council and shall be in writing and available to all library patrons. Section 5. That Sector 2.634C of the Lowell Revised Code is amended to read as follows. C. Powers and duties. The Library Committee assists in operating the library, recommends policy for use of the library, and advises the City Council on the use and funding of the library.
That concludes the second reading.
That should be a public hearing. Public hearing open at 7:23. Anybody want to speak? You have anything you want to add first, Mr. Carter?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Anybody want to speak about the library? Okay, for or against? Okay. And the hearing is 7:23. Do we have a motion for ordinance 307?
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance number 307.
Second. Okay. Made by Jimmy, seconded by Tim. We have a motion to approve ordinance 307. Other discussion, thoughts? I will say I went by the library today and they are semi-open, which means that they have their computers up and you can go and check out books. If not that, you can get library cards. They've got their cards in, so they're starting to pass out library cards. So for the people interested, it's I know they don't have all the books out, but they do. They kept good books, and a lot of those books are worth reading if you're a reader. Okay. All those, anything else? All those in favor of resolution 307?
Ordinance, Mr. Mayor.
What's that?
Ordinance.
I'm sorry, ordinance, you're correct. All those in favor of ordinance 307, ordinance to amend sections 2.505, 2.506, 2.507, and 2.634 of the Lowell Revised Code relating to the Lowell Public Library concept, operations, and power and duties of the library committee. Signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Good deal. New business, you have a presentation by our engineering rep.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we have a presentation scheduled tonight by Matt Wadlington of Civil West Engineering. At this time, I'll turn it over to you, Matt. And I do have share in a.
Okay, thank you, Jeremy. Hello, Mayor, Council. Wanted to chat with you guys about some STC resolutions that we've recently gone through and updated. I'm gonna see if I can share my screen. You guys able to see that?
Yes.
Okay, so what we did is just looked at the water and the park system STCs. The sewer STCs will come after the wastewater facilities plan is finalized, and there are some capital improvement projects that we can update. So for now, we're just looking at water and parks. So what we were going to do is just using the original methodology that was instituted with the old STCs. We're going to just update the projects, eligible projects, and costs to identify what the new STC eligibilities would be. So for the water projects, we use the water master plan, which was completed last fall. And for the parks projects, we used the Lowell Parks master plan, which was done by the University of Oregon in 2019. So STCs are meant to just fund projects that expand the capabilities for future growth. And so we're going to use the term STC eligibility, which is the percent of the estimated cost of a project that's going to benefit the future population. And again, the methodology of doing this kind of the baseline was kept the same as what the city's been using since 2004. Again, we've just gone through and updated projects. So starting with the water system, the methodology identified a typical residential water service as one in a flow factor equivalence, and the bigger the meters, the higher that flow factor got. So the more water would get pushed through these bigger meters. And so those were the factors. With a bigger meter, you get bigger STCs. So then we looked at the equivalent dwelling units, EDU, served by the water system. Right now, based on the master plan that was just done, 536 EDUs. So some of those are commercial or industrial sites that may use more than a standard connection. So there are fewer than 536 connections, but there are 536 equivalent dwelling units. At the project build out, you will have 878 equivalent dwelling units, which results in an expansion of 342 equivalent dwelling units. So then looking at the capital improvement projects identified in the water master plan, some of these, the water treatment plant, the reservoir, booster pump station, and water main replacements are all capacity increasing projects. So those are all eligible or partially eligible for STCs. Other projects, air burst on the intake, seismic upgrades, and fire protection upgrades, those don't increase the system capacity, so those are not eligible for SDC reimbursement. So the total cost of all the projects was 10 million. Of that, I think there's about 7 million that's eligible, and some is fully eligible and some is not. Starting with the water treatment plant, we looked at that in terms of what the future demand and what the current demand was, and came up with a 40% of that project is for an increase in capacity. So that means that project is 40% eligible. The booster pump station, which is gonna serve the higher elevation area on the east side of town, is solely to benefit that future development, and so therefore it is 100% SDC eligible. The reservoirs, the current capacity is I think 900,000 gallons, but one of those is an older concrete reservoir, and we're assuming that is not a long-term solution. So we are assuming that in addition to the existing 460,000 steel reservoir, you're going to need an 800,000 gallon reservoir. 43% of that is to serve growth, and so 43% eligible. And then water main replacements. Some of these pipes are going to get bigger, and with bigger pipes comes more capacity. So we did the math based on the area of those pipes, and came up with 42% eligible. So a lot of these projects are in that low to mid 40% eligibility. When we look at the total projects that are identified, how much of that 10 million should be paid by existing customers and residents, and how much of it should be paid by future residents? And that number that is for expansion is be paid by future users, divided by the number of future users. We come up with a number of the water system expansion. And I'll go through and talk about kind of SDC, a little bit of theory here in a minute after I go through the parks, but let me do that real quick. Park system.
Matt, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you, Jeremy. Was there a question?
Mine came up there.
You need to give it to the paper.
I think Matt was doing a good job.
Matt, can you hear us?
I can hear you, Jeremy. Can you hear me?
We're having some technical difficulties, Matt, if you can hear us. Is anybody's internet?
I'm working now. I'm actually able to get on.
I was
the
gonna say,
city
I'm
website.
connected,
Was-
so it's not the internet. for
Yeah.
some reason. I wonder if it's that, let's see if I can.
Yeah. I don't do stuff like that.
I have to zoom in so much I can't see more than half of the page at times. to be able to see it.
Terribly inefficient for me.
Yeah, you're constantly scrolling together.
Anybody else get on Zoom on your computer?
Tim's logged on.
I'm all the way in. even on the
All of a
Zoom
sudden.
website.
You're on Zoom? Well, I'm just thinking.
No, I'm not on Zoom. I didn't. but-
I'm trying to get on Zoom and see if it.
Oh, see if you
it's-
can do that. 'cause we do
If
that a
it's
lot.
Zoom. but it's installing updates at the moment.
It may not launch if he's not on that.
Okay, I'm on.
I'm in. There.
So,
You're saying the host will let you.
yeah, I'm saying.
So the Zoom meeting is still existing, it's just kind of, just we can't do
Well, I just
anything
wanted
without
to
you.
signal with the,
Now- I'm on now, I got Matt on.
You got that?
Yeah. You wanna plug into my,
Well, TV's still on.
hey, Matt, we're having some technical difficulties on Jeremy's computer.
Matt, give a thumbs up if you can hear us.
I can hear you. Can you not hear me still?
they can hear and we're just not be able to see that.
Can anybody hear me?
Okay, I can hear you on my computer.
Want me to hold up my copy?
Let's give the TV just a moment.
Mr. Mayor, after this presentation, will we be able to ask questions?
Yeah, probably.
Okay. Thank you.
What's your question, just in case?
I would want to go back a couple of slides that he had where he talked about the SBC pays 100% of, I thought it was a booster station to serve the hillside on the east side of town. Am I correct? Is that what he said? And I want to know if what that's going to cover on the east side of town. It's not gonna, is it gonna?
What it is, there's we've got the two tanks up there, and you got First Street, but the houses are about the same level as the tanks are. So what it's gonna do is it's gonna take another tank up higher, a smaller one, whatever, to give the pressure to those ones up on top. The pressure coming down the hill, once it gets below that, is adequate, but they're gonna have a booster pump or whatever. We have a small tank up on Roy's land right now, but
So the booster
That
is
isn't working.
100% eligible for S.
Yeah.
And is that for existing up there or non-existing? Or
pre-existing home.
It can't be, because then it wouldn't be all eligible.
Exactly.
$0 is attributable to existing.
Yeah,
It's gotta be.
Okay.
If it's going for anything above what's already subdivided or plotted,
Yeah.
then that cannot be 100% SDC. The developer would have to pay for that. Am I wrong?
I think you're right, it's it's for future growth, not current.
That's
So,
correct. Yeah, thank you.
So it'd be more the future home.
Because the city has offered the Nelsons once before to put in another tank. But they would split the cost with them and they chose not to do that.
Right.
So for us to pay for them to get water up even higher than the first subdivisions is crazy.
Well, I think where the tank would be going is over towards where this new subdivision went in. So it'd be pretty much on that same level there, but so I don't know that.
You mean Jerry Valencia's property?
No, over in,
The-
Over.
Yeah, on top of the hill there,
Yeah,
You
okay.
mean where Max lives, you mean?
yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
across the two like that.
Yeah.
But it's on the side of the hill there, how high? I don't think it's gonna, I think they're at 80 or something like that. I don't know that it's gonna carry it that high. at this point. I'm not sure.
Mr. Mayor, at this point, I believe the only option is to unplug from the TV. It's clearly not working. And to allow Matt to continue his presentation. The audience can hear through the owl.
Okay.
Unfortunately, they won't be able to see on the TV.
Okay.
But if the presentation is in the packet, if anybody wants to go online.
On the desk. See.
Okay,
You want to pull the table?
You got it then.
all right, Matt, can you say something so we can test our speakers?
Yep, can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Okay,
Still gonna be hard.
so am I right in that, none of what I was saying earlier was heard? So do you want me to start over?
The phone on the hill.
Page 7. Which one? I believe.
Water system SDC eligibility.
There you go. Page
500 GPM booster pump station.
Yeah, there you go.
So yeah, this is the pump station that would serve above where the existing reservoirs are now. And so, you know, any development in that area would require a new tank and a booster pump station to get the water to the tank. And so I heard someone talk earlier about it being developer funded, and that is right. But how they would do that would be to fund that and then take SDC credits for doing that improvement, since that's the population that this would serve. So, I'm sorry, Jeremy, I couldn't hear you. Did you say you want me to start over or not?
Not start over, continue from where you just cut off.
Okay,
That was page 7.
okay.
He was down to 9. Yeah, he was down to 9. He'd already gone.
Okay, so we talked about the reservoir being partially eligible, the water main
Correct.
replacements being partially eligible.
Yes,
And then we're moving on, the kind of the summary is that
right
there
there.
would be,
Start from the summary.
okay. So of all of the projects that are identified, that you know are funded, 7.5 million are funded by the existing population. 3.35 million would be funded by future population and in the ways of SDCs. And so dividing that 3.35 million divided by the future, the projected expansion of dwelling units, ends up being $9,824 per dwelling unit for an SDC. Now, again, if there are industrial or commercial users that use more water, then they would pay a higher SDC. And I'll talk about the SDCs, kind of the theory in a few minutes after the parks, but this is that 9,824 is kind of the maximum defendable SDC. So now I'll move on to the parks, and then we'll kind of talk about SDCs in general. The park system uses pretty much the same projected EDUs that build out and current EDUs, a little bit different because commercial and industrial properties are exempt from parks SDCs, how the methodology is currently written. So of all the parks, most of these will serve the entire population. And so that's the future population. So most of those would be partially eligible based on expected growth. The one that's not is the parking lot resurfacing at Paul Fisher Park. That does not, that's just a maintenance item, and those are not SDC eligible. So then we look at future parks, future areas that may need to be served for future development. And so these are based on the Parks Master Plan. So these are talking about future parks, and any future park would be 100% SDC eligible. And so these are kind of future development, future parks. There'd still be 0.3 miles of trails that would be necessary. A little almost an acre and a half of neighborhood parks. And again, these would be for a future subdivision or development up on the hill, and a half-acre mini park. And this is based on kind of the park density per the park master plan. So a total cost $260,016 for future park work. Adding that all together, we end up with a little over $1 million being funded by future development, divided by the number of future EDUs, gives us a parks SDC of $2,856. So kind of wrapping that up, the kind of the top line here is the key line for a standard residence. We have a defendable SDC for water of 9,824 and a defendable SDC for parks of 2,856. And when I'm saying defendable, what I mean is that you could go up to that number. If you were to go higher than that number, then it would cause kind of undue hardship on development, and that would not be per the state regulations for SDCs. So you can certainly go lower. You can make the decision that you want your water SDC to be $5,000, and that's totally up to you. It's kind of a balancing act of paying for future development, but not stifling the growth and getting future development to come. So that's kind of something that you guys have to decide whether or not you want to do that full amount or not. But in order to pay for everything, that would be the number that you need. So I think that's kind of my run through. Let me know if you have questions.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
It's probably more a question for Jeremy. What's the current rates for the water and parks SDCs?
Current rates. I had intended to put that in the packet. Give me just 1 second and I can answer that for you.
Yeah, I should have had that up here too, and I didn't think of it.
You said, no.
Okay. All
So
right.
I have another question, and maybe I don't know which of you. If grant monies were to be used, I realize this is a projection of a cost and over the remaining EDUs in the 20-year period. Is that what we're looking at? Is it 20 or 30 years? 20? So
So the way the methodology is written is it's kind of a full build out. So it may be past the 20-year.
But the full build out was what was specified in the master plan, water master plan, and wasn't that 2045 or something? Was that what we were doing? I'm trying to follow this thread through these plans.
Yes.
So that was 2045, right? I think full build out. So if, we got a whole bunch of infrastructure money out there. So if a $3 million grant comes through and pays for one of these things, we don't go back and reconcile and readjust, right? We wait 20 years before we do this again.
SDCs are done. Usually used to be done on pretty much an annual or every couple of years.
I
They're
don't
updating.
recall that though. Is that the case?
We've done several updates to the SDC since.
Generally, the city updates STCs just to increase for inflation every year. But that's a good question. If you get a big grant and that pays for some of these STC eligible projects, then I would recommend that you go through and adjust your STCs to account for that.
Matt, can you turn off your screen share so that I can share mine?
Yes.
Okay, I am now sharing my screen that has the current SDC resolution. The total water system is 4,575.
I'm sorry,
4,575.
is the current water SDC rate?
Current water SDC. Current park is 1,032.
Wow,
So we're talking about doubling the water SDC and 150% of park SDC.
Correct.
I don't have an issue with Matt's calculation methodology and all of that stuff, but I really would like a council discussion on what goes into it that he doesn't really have any control over. But as far as the presentation, I get it.
I had a question. I wonder if the old numbers, I mean, I'm not, versed in the subject, are the old numbers lower because a former council chose to keep them lower than what the calculations actually came out to be, or is that what calculations came out to be? I would be curious to know that. Whether that was, because Matt said we could elect to go with a lower number than 9,800 and the 2,000 number.
Matt, can you recall from the documentation that I sent you if the current SDCs on the books match up to the total projects that were in that documentation that I sent you?
Yeah, I think the old methodology you did. I mean, I think that was the true number that that calculated out was that 4,500. Although I think it was less than that because it's grown every year by 3 or 4%. And so at the time it was probably 3,500, but that was just a function of not as many capital projects required when the last water master plan was done.
And we're talking, and this is probably the dumbest question ever. We're talking the SDCs now, not necessarily in the future.
No.
Going
and into the
forward.
future.
Right, so I guess that's where I'm trying to make sure I understand. So the 9,000 is not just the future, it's should be right now.
As soon as we pass it, I mean, when it all rolls.
Yeah,
So what I'm hearing here is the biggest increase is because of the projected future capital projects that weren't
Okay, so that's what it
had
is.
previously been planned. That's the majority of the large jump here.
that's why, okay, that's what I was trying to wrap my head around.
Well, and I think we still are looking at that, that reservoir and booster and really how much of it's political, it's not a numbers thing.
I would also feel odd about charging, if we're not completely set on a plan for the reservoir replacement and stuff, that I would feel odd approving such a large jump without those actually going through the, being actually planned out as projects that were happening in the short-term future. I would hate to, and I realize the math works out in the long run anyway, that we need that money for those projects, but that's a big jump for the developers in the near-term future to be paying and expect to attract them for something that we don't know when it's going to be done.
That's why I was asking.
We're talking about, roughly,
Yes.
a doubling of the SDCs combining between park and, or maybe even a little more between park and water between the existing ones and, what we're discussing tonight.
Are we deciding?
Well, Mr. Mayor, I would like to get some direction from the council tonight on a number so that I can work with the city engineer to bring back a final resolution to you. We do have some draft resolutions in your packet. We just need a number to plug in there. And if the council wants to consider this further, that's fine, but I am going to need some direction from you on what you want to see in those resolutions.
I almost think we need to look at what we're going to plan on doing. And plug numbers against that. If we're not going to do certain things and we start collecting money to do certain things, then that's not right. But if we're going to, if we have facility needs or whatever improvements, expansion that's going to be needed for the additional buildings that were put in and everything, then we need to make sure we cover those, I think. But we all, I think, I don't think I'm prepared right now to say yes on this one and no on that one. So I don't think I could give you direction on what the rest of the council at this point.
I think we need to do something to account for inflation. I think we need to look at adjusting the last SDC numbers based on the cost of inflation. I think we'd be in error not to allow for an increase to keep up with that. But I'm in agreement with you. I don't think I'm ready to approve it over it.
I think, and also I'd like to get input from Max Baker on this for what he understands is pretty darn well, and what he sees as short term, medium term, long term. What, and then we can decide on which improvements make sense to us. So I don't think we can give you direction tonight.
What we need to do to get that direction? Do we need to have work sessions? Give me an idea of what information that you need.
I think that would be a best way to go.
I was even wondering about the work session coming up. I don't know if it's too much to add to
No,
that.
Saturday, I don't think so.
Okay.
I think
Needs to be a
that's
separate
going to take, it may well take a couple hours by just itself.
Set dates.
We can do it.
Do you want to come back the first Tuesday of February?
Let's try that. We can come back. We can come back an hour early, or just. I don't know what else is on the agenda for the first Tuesday for the regular session, but if we've got. Like I say, it's going to take some time, I think, to decide on which ones we do and don't want.
Mr. Mayor,
To pay for right now.
Mr. Mayor, question.
Sure.
Has there been any public hearings on this at all?
We're not to that point yet.
But there will be, but if you want to make a decision tonight on a number, then there's no public hearing. That's not right either.
We're not to that point yet. This is just a discussion item.
So we're talking about the 7th of February,
One more question.
first
Sure.
Tuesday.
Sure.
One more question on Tim's proposal for adjustment for inflation. The SDCs are only for future development, not for existing development. So why would there be any inflation on SDCs for existing development? Or for existing,
But it was set up for, I think, 800 homes, whatever it was. And so those SDCs, the people that's buying it now are still paying for what was put in there some time back. So, and they're being adjusted up for inflation. It doesn't include these new things would come in. This is the things that were done 10 years ago or whatever. So they're adjusting so that the people, they're paying their part of it that's coming in now. And if we make an adjustment to them, then the ones coming in will be paying that plus a little bit more.
Mr. Mayor, I have a suggestion. if the engineer, public works director and I were to come back to you, your first February meeting with a spreadsheet where we had projects listed, maybe the top projects over the next 10 years that are critical. And we can kind of plug those in and do some math.
I think
Would that be helpful to you?
That'd be great.
I like that idea.
Yeah.
That way,
I think we really need to prioritize these improvements to be able to prove this out.
If too, you could get that water system summary for the last calculation when that was done, it might be so old that it's not possible, but if we had it must be in the water master plan that was developed that this was based off of, if the same methodology is being used. So we should
I was
have
able to
it
track-
to see if
track
those went through or not, kind of give us a catch up from then to now.
So we're comparing apples to
Mhm.
apples.
Yeah.
See what the changes really are.
Okay, I believe I have an idea here. Matt, were you able to catch that?
Yep, I think so. I think that's a good idea. We can certainly set that up. One thing that I would want to point out is that based on the current methodology and current resolution, it does go up each year with inflation. There is a inflation clause in that, and so every year the city's been raising that according with the construction cost index, and so that's been I think a yearly increase to that. So it does go up with inflation now.
Yeah, it's not gonna stay at 86.94, for instance, or whatever that. number
Correct.
is.
Yeah.
But I also meant that I read somewhere, I thought that the projects themselves had an inflation factor of 6% over time or something. Where did
I think they
those were increased as well. It's today 2022 cost plus some, is that?
I'm not sure. I'd have to go back and look, I guess.
Find it. I underlined it, I think.
Well, it's definitely an issue of coming up with true real numbers to be dealing with, because, if we're planning on doing something in 10 years and we're seeing a number before us, does our automatic inflation index increase keep up with the possible increase that is in reality on the completion of a project versus what projected would be?
Yeah, and you're not gonna be able to, unless you upgrade the rates, and I don't think you upgrade the rates on a routine basis like that. I don't think we've done that. I think it's because it's all tied with the master plan, and then it gets the projects, which puts it into the table, which forecasts it out, and then the inflation takes over.
I don't think we've had a $10 million master plan in the past, so that's pretty,
Yeah.
if it was legit, that's where we want to do, that's our plan to go, that $9,000 is probably a good number, but
Well, but I think we talked in the master plan, though, we wouldn't be able to afford all those projects on the citizens.
Yeah.
So we knew we were gonna have to get grant money, some kind of financing, some sort of way, not finance, but so that's again, my question about that kind of stuff is, how does that work over time? When we know, we can have a $20 million list. And that may be what we need for full build out, but that means we're not gonna do full build out in that time frame. So why do we limit growth with a extraordinary rate? That's a strategy if somebody wants to limit.
Right. But
Another thing that I can put in and come back to you guys next month with is kind of a summary of neighboring cities and what they're charging for STCs. And when you're talking about kind of limiting growth, any developer is going to come in and find out if it's cheaper to build in Lowell or Cottage Grove or Oak Ridge. And so I'll see if I can kind of generate a table of neighboring cities so you can kind of see where you rank there and make sure that you're not pushing developers to those other cities.
I think that would be good, Matt.
Yeah.
Will help us not make a decision in the void. If we're worried about impacting development, but we don't actually know what other cities are charging, and how we make. a
Well, we
decision.
do, they're outrageous, but they've got a lot of different services and things that we don't have, because it's not really scalable.
I don't.
Oh,
So it would be
okay,
helpful.
yeah.
Right.
I mean, it's always in the newspaper every 5 years or something.
That sounds like a good plan. I also suggest to council, if you think of other things that you want to include in that work session, get it to Jeremy and he can add that on. There's nothing worse than have a work session, having a whole bunch of questions that he's not prepared for, or Matt or Max or anything like that. So if you think of something between now and the end of the month, make sure you get it to them, and that way that makes it more beneficial to us. We can actually see what we have and act on it. So, do the guessing. That'd be my only suggestion on that. Sound good? Okay.
Thank you, Matt. I'll be reaching out to you.
Okay, thank you. Have a good evening.
Okay, we're up to page 109. Agreement for improvements for Lowell School District. Ms. Powell?
Okay. I'm asking for city council approval tonight of an agreement for improvements with the Lowell School District. This was for their land use application number 2022-05 for the high school gym and classroom expansion. The planning commission approved their site plan along with condition of approval number 4, which requires them to enter into an improvement agreement with the city. This is our standard improvement agreement. And it has to do with completing public improvements, surety bonding, ensuring the public improvements, city inspections and review, and so on. And I'm asking for city council approval tonight so we can comply with that condition of approval.
Okay, go ahead. Yes, ma'am.
Jeremy, is it, so the standards applied to here is our current development code, is that correct?
Correct.
Not the new downtown development proposed?
Correct.
Okay, even though it's in that zone, right? That's how it works.
Correct.
Thanks.
And what it is their new weight room, classrooms. It's pretty much on the same front as the gym, between the street where the buses used to park and the gym. It's in there, so it's an improvement there, so. Needed.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to add to Councilor Weathers' point that the school district they endeavored to be faithful to our downtown master plan. And that shows in the plans that they submitted. So even though they didn't have to, they were faithful to.
Yes, I saw the things that are gonna add along the trees and stuff like that, so that was good to see. Any other questions of the city administrator on that? Do we have a motion for the agreement for improvements?
I'll make a motion to approve an agreement for improvements with the Lowell School District pursuant to the conditions of approval and application 2022-05 and to authorize the mayor to sign.
We have a motion by Gail, seconded by Jimmy for the approval of the agreement for improvements for the Lowell School District. Any further questions, thoughts, or anything like that? I tell you what, it's those people are doing great things over there, and I'm so proud of them. Okay. That's 1, 2, 6. Okay. Not seeing, not hearing. All those in favor of motion to approve an agreement for improvements with the Lowell School District pursuant to the conditions of approval and land use application 2022-05 and to authorize the mayor to sign, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Good man. Next up on 117, review of the participating city annex template. Mr. Kyle, can you explain that?
Yes, this is an information item. For your awareness, we are a part of the Lane County Emergency Management Plan. And they've tasked us with completing this city annex. It's for us to annex into their plan. I'm not asking for any input from you tonight, but I would like you to start thinking about the types of hazards that our community faces, the frequency with which they occur, the severity with which they occur. And I'd like to come back to you at your first February meeting to get some ideas from you. It doesn't have to be very detailed, just something to get us started with it. And then I'll take that information as part of our regional team meeting in February that I talked about earlier. So this is just for information, so you can start getting those ideas together.
Usually what's on these things, associated with the fire district. So they're gonna be participating or working in this also.
I don't believe the fire district or the school district are a part of this project, but as a part of our internal process, I'll be engaging with them, and I believe that they'll be a part of our public engagement process.
So,
Gosh, because you think that information is already out there someplace, why we're gonna sit here and dream it up and forget things that we shouldn't. Seems
It seems like part of the
terribly
process.
inefficient.
It seems like you could include as part of the process, the last time this was done and the risks and information that were presented previously.
It's never been done.
It's never been done.
First
Did we,
iteration
oh my
of
gosh, it's been tried 10 times and hopefully
that's
this
what
time.
happens. We get.
There's a form here. I like
Yeah.
the progress.
You
Something to fill out.
you get to step one and then it dies. You know, this is so many times it's come up and I think the county has.
So it's dying
Maybe
at
they'll
the
get
county
us-
level? It's dying at the county level?
It's at the county level. It's been,
But these are ones that they're asking the cities to do input and that's, but it seems weird that. Yeah, this council would know more than our emergency responders would about hazards.
that's the reason I was asking about the fire department. Because the thing, I don't know, this goes way back, but it's talking about the railroad over there. That what would happen if a railroad car or a bunch of cars crashed, whatever, all the thing that's in them, and they went into the lake, went into the lookout, went into this lake, okay, I know that's not Lowell, it's over there, but it's same water. And so,
Remember, we had the train derail a
Yeah,
number of
yeah,
years ago and
So-
there was.
so we can,
Hazards and, I mean, these things happen. So maybe what we're really looking at is just to think about things they might not know about.
Yes.
That we have the train there and it has happened. Think about the snow we had a couple of years ago. The atmospheric river that came in and, so I don't know. I mean, just
That's exactly what.
those are the kinds of things that because we live here, we know maybe more than just the general.
The
Emergency
region,
management.
We can run that meeting,
and the staffing for the emergency management thing with the snow. I was a brand new person, so they've been there long enough. And they go through these things every year where they'll do they plan, practice, whatever, they spend like 24 hours or whatever. And go through it, but I guess, I don't know, I'm with. We've started this thing so many times, once you give us something about what you have to work off of, I don't want to give you the.
We start with a blank sheet of paper.
Yeah,
every time.
I agree with you,
Well, it sounds to me like they're doing it though.
yeah, oh, yeah,
And if they're
They just
doing
want
it, then
input.
we can just give them some of the thoughts we have of things we faced. Living here,
Right, as Jeremy said, it's not fully fleshed out, it's just
right,
idea.
right, but just for us to have some input into something we wouldn't want missed, maybe.
the bigger
Because-
earthquake.
Meteors, right?
Sure, yeah.
Well, the big earthquake will do all
We
of
just
this. The whole county, so.
But they've already,
Should be on there, your bulletin line when the dam goes.
they've done those things, they talk
Oh, well,
about.
to the river. We'll still be
About the
sure.
emergency plan, about islands of people, and so a lot of this. I'm with you. A lot of this seems like it's already on paper, because I went through some things, and they were talking about emergency planning. Islands where the bridges all get broken here and here and here, so you're gonna be stuck here. If you're at home and you're there, that's a good thing, but if here's home and part of the family's here, part of the family's over there, somewhere here, there's no way of getting across bridges and things like that, that's tough. The other thing is 58 is the main resupply from Redmond or wherever the airport is over there to come down to here. They weren't going down 126, but too many bridges, corners, and everything like that. So, but that even has bridges on it, so it could be out. So I thought you go out there and hijack a truck every once in a while.
There you go.
I'm just going to your house, Don.
One of the
Just saying, some
closest
of the
attempts
events
we
had
did was
in
to
the recent
start.
past.
One of the best attempts we did at this was trying to find local resources in response, because that was more helpful, because the county says you're gonna be on your own for 7 days, and so we were starting a list of who all had backhoes. You know, we have an airstrip here, we've got a helipad, you know, a lot of communities don't have that, and but again, I don't know whatever happened to that list either, but it was great, because if we're gonna have to dig ourselves out, whoever has backhoes is a pretty darn good list to backhoes and tractors and that sort of thing.
They try to be more optimistic. They say 3 days now before they'll start to get out here. So
Is this with the big earthquake?
with the-
Just any
the
major.
snow thing was 3 days before we got started getting things.
That was a good, you know, to see who has what equipment with.
It's not quite, no.
Especially the access in and out by air when everything else is a disaster, I thought was a great feature for us.
Just be sure they had a broken water main on First Street. That's one of them.
It's all your fault.
Major disaster.
Okay, we up to 125 now for security, the new building. Carl?
All right, something else I'd like to get your input in is responding to security alarms at 71 Pioneer Street. We've had several false alarms. And that's caused us, the staff, to think about safety for responding to those alarms. What if it really is something? I have some recommended steps here. The first step is we have a list, everybody is on it. You are all on that list for redundancy purposes. If person 1 doesn't answer, then they go to person 2, person 2 doesn't answer, person 3, and so on. So the next step is whoever gets the call, call somebody else, and the 2 of you go out there. We can't have one person responding. You do a loop around it, see if you see anybody. It's real easy to look inside, see if any of the lights are on. Once you get there, if you see somebody, you call 911. If you don't see anybody, one person enters, the other person stays outside and observes. One person goes in. If it's good, you give the all clear signal, reset the alarm, lock up and go home. If the other person doesn't come out, call 911.
Yes.
And stay in the line.
I have to admit that's.
Can I take my dog and send her?
Take the dog, take the gun, whatever you take.
Okay.
Well,
I really liked working with you.
oh, well, that's a beach.
I come from a business world where we were broken in quite a few times. And the only thing I would, just what he said, usually if the alarm goes off, if there's somebody in the building, I don't know if our alarm company is going to call the sheriff's department or not, how quickly they respond.
They will call the sheriff's office will not come out unless we can verify that somebody is in there.
I think I hate to let you off the hook, but I think, you know, that it's pretty tough to have you as the number 2 person to be called on this list.
Yeah, because especially if you be living out of town, that's not fair.
Well, I'm number 1.
I thought Max was number 1.
I'm number 1, then Max, then Sam.
Oh, city administrator then. Oh, sorry, mayor. is-
No, me, Public Works, Mayor, City Clerk.
Yeah.
Are you
Does that mean
able,
you have to drive all the time?
do you have the
Let's
capability
not
to
do that.
see it on the street?
I've been doing that.
It doesn't give us.
I am,
You gotta do that.
that would be an additional service that we would have to procure from them, but it is possible.
I would think that,
I think we should switch to view to number 4 on this list. I think we're not gonna get a timely response, no offense. It just is.
Wouldn't expect it to,
Yeah.
So I think it needs to be
No
level.
judgment involved in that, but I think there.
Even if one of us are in Eugene and get the call in a restaurant, you let it go to the next person,
Yeah,
The trick is timely response.
yeah, and it's just not. If one of us is here and can take care of it, we shouldn't have to drive all the way in.
I used to do it all the time for high school.
I live right around the corner. I'm retired. I'm home all the time. I own the property across the street. I own one around the corner. Usually when there's an emergency happens, such as our blow up that we had last week, I'm in that area anyway, so please put me on the list.
You could be outside, yeah.
Well, if this was the old city hall, I would say Hall would be a great person for number 1 on the list.
well,
Yeah,
we'll
right,
have
I think
to,
we go over.
See,
That's the reason on that.
I would prefer for city staff and city council to be,
That's the reason I was-
that would be sufficient.
That was the reason I was asking.
I think we should do view to number 4 on the list after the mayor, so.
Okay,
Not as a criticism of your commitment.
No,
Well, ahead of us, was just behind the mayor.
it's just. If it keeps going off and you have to drive out here all the time, all night, I don't want you to have to do that.
Well, didn't they used to have a big rash of these things? They're still
Like
going
false
on.
alarms.
Yeah, they were always recorded on the police log.
Yeah.
We used to have them a long time. I used to have to, I was on the list because everybody else lived downtown.
Hey, Don, is there a way to put like a ring doorbell inside?
That's what I was wondering. Didn't we have cameras? I thought we had cameras.
yeah, but I don't understand. What was the question?
Can we do some kind of alternate check besides an in-person check? Is there a way to get a video so we can pull this video up and look at the building?
There is a way, it's an additional service that the security company would have to do. In the meantime, this is all we have,
Yeah,
but it is possible.
I think that would offer,
Depends on how many of these we start.
it might be worth the cost, depending on what the cost is. Last thing we want is somebody to actually,
But
false
even,
alarms are one thing.
just a ring one that ring to your phone, it wouldn't have to be tied in with the other security system. You got the alarm going off. Now you want to go to a camera that's pointing at the door that
Or you can even have one
might have
on
to
the
be in the
inside.
same security system.
Well,
Outside
and if
is-
that was on, if somebody did come through the door, it would be recorded, so it wouldn't have to be. Right? I'm just thinking if that's gonna do it.
No, I mean, it comes live to my phone. I can tell when a person walks up to the house.
Okay.
I can
That's
talk
what
to
I
them.
meant, yeah.
And it's not a doorbell.
Do we know why these alarms are going off to begin with?
Yes, the sensor was not on there properly. That has been resolved. We've also had staff who came in certain doors that were not doors they should have been coming in, and we've had some training along those lines. So human error.
So learning curve on that.
Yeah. I took that.
Well, usually the delayed entry doors then.
It sounds like our input would be to just shift the list a little bit to accommodate. for
Well,
quicker response.
What I'll say in response to that is, if we want to get the service to where we can remotely view the cameras, I would need to have access to that, which would mean I would be number one on the call list. I would see it. And then I would call appropriately to come out and respond.
So that's based on a situation that doesn't exist currently. So I think there's two things here. One is the current suggestion from the city council. Sounds like we would like to, if everybody's in agreement, would like to move you to number 4 on the list. And then look into that option of getting some kind of remote monitoring to be able to
And
have.
then once we have that, we can readjust.
Well, especially if the false alarms are eliminated.
Yeah.
That's the first goal.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I have a remodel project going on in a duplex in Eugene right now, and I have a ring type camera inside the building, because we've got tens of thousands of dollars worth of tools in there. And the minute there's movement, that camera turns on, we can see it from our phone, and you can hook that up to everybody's phone. I mean, anybody anybody can actually be hooked up to it, so simple.
You can have as many connections as you
Yeah, you
want.
can have, you can have all of them, you know, that everybody, yeah, you would get it the same, Jeremy, you would get it at the same time as everybody else.
And it's
The not camera. part
of the paying service as such.
Yeah, there's no service involved, it's just a camera that's done by Bluetooth.
We can look into that too. Yeah.
Keep stuff going. Okay,
But let's try and get something we can see, where we can actually see, so that we know.
surprises with that.
Well, it would also be. I mean, I think this is a great, plan. If there were cameras in there, it would be a little less, even more safe for one person to walk in there. We just know even more, so.
Excuse me, I have a question. Is there any plans on when to have the lights on in the city hall? I mean, are they gonna be on 24 hours? Only
Maybe the
during
parking lot?
operation?
The parking lot or the building?
The building itself. When I drive by there and I see
Oh, the
there's
outside,
lights left on all night and sometimes not. So I mean, is there,
the outside.
Plan on that?
Night. Those little, wall packs or whatever they call, wall washers.
That is correct, the outside,
Don't the interior go off when things settle down?
yes, they are motion detected.
Yeah. So they shouldn't be on all night.
I know.
I love those things, you walk down the hall at the school. and it's like-
Yeah, on that, this Saturday, we have the goal setting meeting at 9, going till noon. Bring your goals. Bring your ideas, that way it makes it run a little quicker, faster,
I
easier.
thought we had projects.
Yeah. Right. Okay. But we'll be going into executive session. We won't be reconvening. There's no decisions coming out of the executive session that I see. So we'll have to empty the room out, and so we'll adjourn at 8:27. Oh, before that, we have any community comments, anybody? Well, on the water adjourn. Okay, I don't see any, so we'll stay adjourned at 8:28. Okay.
No.
I'm actually curious. I don't.
Yeah, no, that, and it's hard. You know what other people don't know.
Physical assault board meetings.
The other option is
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
take a little farther. That's what Jeremy had to do.
In the mills and then get.
Jeremy's like,
The cast was like that.